Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where we will go beyond the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary. Be part of down-to-earth, no BS conversations where we will explore hot topics on love and money, relationships and business, beauty, and who we get to be with all that shit in between. With our insights and your actions, let's be unstoppable together. Let's go.
Hi there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. I am here and I'm joined with the lovely Juliana. Thank you for joining me today, Juliana. I really do appreciate you. Juliana is not just my social media manager, my marketing guru. She does so many things with her magazine and, she's just a busy, busy girl. But we have been talking a lot about transition. Now, Juliana and I, when did we start working together, Juliana?
I would say it was April of this year.
Okay. So in April. So really not a long time. And
No.
that transition, I mean, you have a way of looking at things. You've been doing this for a long time. I am not even when I owned my salon, I really didn't have to advertise. Like I didn't know, right? And now with social media, it's completely different. Like I wasn't in that whole, you had to post everything online and all that when I was doing hair. So it was a completely different thing for me. And we're talking transition today. Now, transition, I'm not just saying about, transitioning into a new job or transitioning into a new relationship. I don't mean that. I'm kind of talking about it all. So, the quiet truth is, and this is just what I believe. It's not the truth, and I should say that. But I have realized that most women don't lose themselves all at once. I really don't believe that. I believe that they lose themselves gradually, and it's kind of in the yes. One agreeable yes at a time. When we don't mean yes, we say yes so often. Many women are people pleasers, but I don't think it just comes from the people pleasing part of it. I just think that we get into this place of comfort, and to transition out of that place is work, and it's hard. It's not easy. Just like anything in life, right? When we make a change, like you worked for another company for a long time, I know that. And for you to transition into working for yourself, tell me a little bit about how that came up for you. Like, what really made you choose you?
Oh gosh. I mean, that's a story. But for the Coles notes of it, I always had the entrepreneurship mindset for most of my life. I love taking photos. I loved doing media. I loved creating. And especially after I finished college and university, that was something essentially I knew that I wanted to do. But I think sometimes we kind of have that, like we rely on other people to kind of guide us or to kind of direct us when sometimes we don't even need that. But we don't really trust ourselves fully yet. So we kind of go along with what they want us to do. And I just always, throughout the jobs that I was working, I always in the back of my head was like, oh, I love all the things that I'm doing for these businesses, but what about me? I want to do something for me and I want to create some sort of buzz, around something that I want to focus on. And I always felt like I was in a box. I was always a people pleaser. I still definitely am, but I was always saying yes to everything. And it came to a point where I was like, you know what? No, like I'm going to try and leap on my own. And mind you, that portion of my life was probably the hardest portion of my life. It was very scary for me to leap and for me to do my own thing. It is still that way. But I just knew, you know what, I have to do this for myself because you'll never know, right? If you don't try, you're never going to know where it could go, what could
That's right.
come from it. And that was the thing in the back of my head. And when I decided to kind of take my own leap into something different for myself, I created a lot of bad blood. I created a lot of people that ended up not liking me or kind of looking at me like, you know what, that's not fair. You can't do that. You can't do this to us. I kind of created that. Um, and not selfishly. I I created it because I was choosing for myself and I wanted to do something for myself. And that's the crazy concept about choosing for yourself is sometimes people look at it almost like, that's not fair to them, but realistically, is it fair to you?
Well, that brings up something for me, and you knew that was because I am so much about no, you made a choice for you. If people get mad because you're choosing you, that's not your problem. And I am the
Right.
biggest believer, and I mean, I just learning how to get out there on social media. I remember when I first did my first live, I was terrified. And even with coaching, I worked with Tina at first. I needed to work with her in a group coaching program because I didn't feel like I had enough confidence in myself. I did have
Right.
confidence, but I didn't have competence because, for an example, and I want to share this quickly. When Juliana and I were working together in that, and I also am a hairstylist, as you all know. And when you came to me for your hair, you were like, you are so different behind the chair. And I said,
Mhm.
that's 40 years of doing this. It is who I have been for the majority of my life, right? I
Right.
was 17 or 18 years old when I first started doing hair. It's who I have been.
Right.
And, when I chose to do something different, I probably didn't do it the right way either. When I owned a salon for 20 years and then I kind of went, I was tired. I was tired of being the one for everyone all the time.
Mhm.
And I realized that I needed to change. So I did change. And there was a lot of hurt feelings when I made that change. There sure was. And I can
Right.
honestly say I probably didn't do it the perfect way, but I didn't know how else to do it. And
Right.
then um, I rented a chair for a while. I learned about that. And then I got sick and I stopped working full time. And one of my girls who was there with me the whole time, she did a lot of my clients for me and she still does a lot of the clients that I used to have. But when I started doing hair again, I started to, some of the clients came back to me. Okay. That's a transition. But that's a transition for me. And it was also a transition for the girls that worked with me all that time too,
Yeah.
because they had to change. Right. And at first you have to see it like I was being selfish. Of course they saw that. Like, how dare you? You're going to just leave? Like, we've been a part of a team for so long and it wasn't about any one of them. It was about me.
Mhm.
Just like it was about you when you chose to do Juliana and do you, because
Right.
you had the the guts to actually take that step. That's not an easy step.
No, it was not. Because when you're working with people, for sure you kind of create that kind of relationship with them, right? And you
Sure.
create kind of right? And most of the work that I've done for people over the past few years, like I've created friendships with them. I got to know their family life. I got to, be pretty close with them. So
Right.
way it's just like this shame that's hanging over your head that you're like, oh my gosh, like, am I gonna ruin this person's every day just because, I might be stepping away from what they want me to do. But at the end of the day, and I've said this to so many people, like in the midst of all of that and going along with what somebody wanted me to do for them, my life, what was going on in my life was not good. I was not able to survive. And
Yeah.
especially in the economy we live in, it was very difficult for me to keep afloat, especially
Yeah.
living on my own and my own thing. It was so hard. And when you start to kind of realize that, and I hate to say this, but when you start to realize that someone else is living kind of an extraordinary life, but you're kind of not. And the reason why their life is pretty extraordinary is because of the work you're doing with them. You start to realize, wait, what about me? Like I want an extraordinary life. I want things to be good for me. And sometimes getting those good things and it might feel selfish, it might feel wrong, but it's not wrong to show up for yourself and to grab opportunities for you.
No. No, it's not. It's actually wrong to not show up for yourself. That's my
Right.
belief. Because,
Right.
you know, um, I see this pattern for so many women. I do. I see it so often, whether it's because of our children or our job or our husband, or our parents, just whatever, we put forth so much for everyone else. but
Mhm.
we put ourselves on the back burner.
Yeah.
How about we transition into not being that way anymore? How about we take that step? How
Right.
about we take the step into being me first? Because when I'm first, that's sacred. That's not selfish. It's sacred. Because when you put yourself first, everything else around you gets better. Everything. And it gets better for all those people around you too.
But my question to you is, like, and that was my biggest thing, right? How do you move past that guilt? Because for me, I honestly felt like if I choose myself in this situation, I am ruining something for someone else, right? And it's this guilt that you feel. And even though it might sound silly, but I'm a very like I'm a compassionate person. I feel very deeply. I always make jokes that at least I have a heart like this. I'm an emotional feeler. I'm a deep thinker. So I feel things so heavily. And that was really hard for me to kind of move past that, thinking that, like, did I just ruin someone's every day?
Well, let me ask you this. And this is what I would say to a client who asks me that. I would say, what were you getting from that? And what were you giving in that? Because honestly, when we give so much of ourselves and we have nothing left at the end of the day, are we getting anything back in return when because it's a job. It's not like, I give a lot to a lot of people and don't expect anything in return. But when I'm working, right? Like if I'm doing a job, if you're working, like we work together, I give
Right.
you what you get, and it's a mutual thing where the give and take is there. But it's like that in
Right.
any relationship. There's got to be a give and a take, right? So if someone's taking, why is it okay? And if what I've been doing for you, you didn't even think about it until I decide to move on. You didn't even give
Mhm.
me like, right? Like, what did you give me to? I just see. I have a hard time. I'm going to tell this little story, and I don't, at this point of where I'm at in my life, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to share this. And, it was something that I always said that I wasn't going to talk about.
Ooh,
But standing in
okay.
your power isn't easy. It isn't easy.
Right.
And other people's opinion of you are none of your business. None of it.
Mhm.
Anyone that knows who you truly are would never believe them anyway. And
Right.
I believe that, right? Because the people in our lives that take advantage of us, at the end of the day, people see that. They already know it. I used to say to my mom, who cares what they think? Well, what if they say something? And I'm like, I don't care. It's not the truth. Like, it doesn't
Right.
matter to me, right? Like, it doesn't. But you standing in your power isn't easy. So that's why the guilt is there too. You're feeling that guilt because you actually said no. You
Right.
actually said no, thank you. And you felt guilty because you never did that before.
Right. Right. And yeah, and it was such a huge step for me. It was confusing, right? Because my emotions when that happened is I felt really powerful, but I also felt horrible at the same time, right? I felt like,
Uh-huh.
wow, I did that for myself. Good for me. But then I was like, oh my
Right?
God, I feel bad because I knew in that moment, and I think that's the craziest thing, especially when you're working with people, right? You do know sometimes that, it is great professionally to have some sort of friendship with people that you work with professionally. And it's good to feel like they kind of understand you and they're there for you. But also, once you eliminate that professional and it's only solely friendship and you're still trying to do professional things together, that's when things get tricky because that's when feelings get hurt.
Oh,
And moving
yes.
forward, I've always said that I'm like, okay, every relationship that I have, when it comes to work and stuff like that, I'm going to try and just keep it professional all the time because being close with the people that you work with is super important. But also, it is important to protect your peace at the same time. And that's something I,
100%. But also working with somebody who would also want you to protect your peace is important.
Yes, and that's the thing that I maybe, I didn't realize when I was in the midst of all these kind of things is that some people are really rooting for you. They want what's best for you, and there's other people that don't, and
That's
and
right.
that I think is something really hard for me to kind of realize that some people aren't rooting for you. Some people don't want you to finally realize that full potential. And I had so many occasions where I would kind of like drop it in conversation saying to people like, "Oh, I kinda wanna do this for myself, or I might do this," and it was quick. Their response was quick of, "No, I don't think you should do that. You won't get anywhere. You probably won't make money. You
Mhm.
won't be able to be successful with that. It won't work for you. You shouldn't do it. Don't do it. Just do it with me." And I, of course, for quite some time believed every word that they were saying. And I'm like, okay, I'm not capable to do it on my own. I should just listen to them. I'm not capable to do it on my own. But the crazy thing about it is that I was doing it on my own the whole time.
That was
They were
exactly what I was just gonna say. But you know what? When someone's doing it selfishly, right? Like, then really the guilt, you don't there's no guilt there. You didn't do anything wrong anyway, which we've already talked about before. But, I think transition too, when we go through any kind of transition, like Tina and I have been working together for 3 or 4 years, and we have just transitioned into two different ways right now. Not saying that we're not going to still work together, but in a different capacity. But people
Mhm.
want to go, oh, what happened? Why aren't you working together? What's happening here? No, it's got nothing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We love each
Right,
other enough to see that each other can be holding each other back in certain instances because we're talking to two different people. Our
right,
podcast is going in two different directions. So why would we have a hindrance between us? There's not going to be if we can actually look at each other and love each other enough to say, I want you to do this for you. Just
right,
you.
and that's the most powerful thing about the 2 of you together, and
Right.
that to me is a perfect example of a very healthy, working relationship, is that you guys love each other first, and that's something to always acknowledge is that,
That's right.
before anything else, we're best friends. We're gonna
Yeah.
acknowledge that we're best friends. Business is business, you do what
Yeah.
you need to do, I'll do what I need to do. But you guys can acknowledge that your friendship is top tier compared to other things, and
And
that's
I
most
think that
important.
that should be, and this is my honest opinion, even with the girls that worked with me before, when I owned my salon, I had a partner in the beginning and then for about the first 5 years, and then I owned the salon myself. And when the girls that worked with me, I never said worked for me, they worked with me. I was never
Right,
in it for me. I was in it for us.
right,
No different than when we started working together. I said that to you. I'm not in this for me. All of us are going to profit from this. Not, and I don't mean profit in money. I mean profit in so many ways. Because if we can't help each other grow in this and help each other get further ahead in our careers or helping people or in whatever we're choosing to do, that's where it becomes a problem to me. And that's just the
right,
truth. And I truly, in my truth, and I truly believe that. I believe that if you're wanting this because you want to take something from me, then that's not the way it should work. I believe that I should be giving to you and you should be giving to, and that's how this works. Because
yeah,
beautiful things, I look at people like Mel Robbins and I look at all the things that she does and all the things that she gives to women and the feeling and the just her authentic being. Like that is special. And she
right,
gives that to all of us, right? Like she gives something and that's what I want. I want to be able to, give to people and have people see that and I'm sure that there's been some people in her life where she hasn't worked with or she's moved on from. But she talks about that too. And it's like it's okay. Because
mhm,
I think transition, it's not a punishment when it comes like for you and I, like I had a girl that worked with me in the very beginning for a long time and I love, love, love her. But our time difference, her schedule, whatever, things were changing, things were shifting. And
right,
I needed to change things up a little bit for me. And it broke my heart because I love her. And
right,
that's my thing is like, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I also need to do what's right for me.
Right
as
there,
well,
there.
right?
Right.
And and when I say like transition isn't a punishment, it's actually an invitation to say yes to yourself, to say
Right.
yes to you and not say yes to everybody else all the time. We get to transition in our own lives as well as we get to transition in the world in our careers and in our and in shifts in relationships and how we do things. All of that works only if it works for you.
Yeah, and I think the most powerful thing, that you just mentioned is like there's nothing selfish in choosing yourself in any
Mm-mm,
situation. Because
mm-mm.
at the end of the day, and this goes for every portion of your life, whether it's emotionally, mentally, financially, career wise, relationship wise, if you are not happy, if things are not lining up the way you want them to line up because you are choosing someone else but yourself, that is when you're going to feel like the biggest failure. And I hate using that word failure because I think people kind of line it up a certain way, but to me failure is not choosing yourself.
That's right.
Failure means not choosing yourself and allowing and being okay with the same repetitive things happening over and over again.
Yeah.
Once you choose yourself, that is when everything changes. And, in my experience, and I'm still learning, of course, I have so much more learning to do. So I'm definitely not fully there yet. But once I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this work for myself, I'm going to get my own clients, I'm going to make my own business and own like purpose. I'm going to make it happen. And I think that's the biggest thing everybody struggles with is purpose.
Yeah.
Take that leap for yourself. Like I remember because one of my first jobs I had, I was working at Canadian Tire, and woohoo to Canadian Tire. I love Canadian Tire to this
Yeah.
day, and all the people. But one of the things I realized, and I was like, I don't know, I was like 18 years old. And I remember I walked in there and one of the workers there, and she was the best. She was at that time, she was about 58 years old. And I said to her, oh, so like, have you worked here for a few years? And she's like, oh, I've been here for 30 years. And I think it struck me because I was like, 30 years. And she said, I don't know what else I want. So it's good enough for me. And that for me was like, imagine that. Imagine never knowing where your life can go, what you can do for yourself if you never took that leap. Take that leap, take that chance on yourself because who else
Yes.
is going
That's right. No one. No one
to?
else
Right.
is. Only you can. And it's hard. Transition is hard. There's nothing easy about it. When I transitioned from, you know, standing behind that chair for, you know, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week to boom, finding out I had cancer and not standing behind that chair, I didn't know who I was.
Right.
I had no clue. And it took a long time for me to transition into being someone who was at home, someone who
Right.
was actually having others take care of her instead of taking care of everyone else.
Right.
And it wasn't easy. So I know that it's difficult, but I learned so much from it. I learned so much because I learned that it wasn't about what I was doing. It wasn't about that. It was who I was being that was the most important. And in a transition, when you get to realize you made that choice, Juliana, because you realized that you were being somebody that wanted more. You wanted to be a leader. You wanted to be an owner of your own business. No one should ever be angry or want to take that away from you.
Yeah, and if I can say something and a little bit of a, trigger warning with it because it's a little bit of a sensitive topic, but something, through my journey and what I've realized, what I'm still realizing is that sometimes when you're not choosing yourself and you're doing everything for everyone else, those thoughts can get really heavy. And through my experience, those thoughts were getting really heavy. And there was
Yep.
many nights, many moments that I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And I might end up doing something I'm going to regret. And essentially, if you really think about it, the reason why I felt that way was because I wasn't choosing myself. I was doing everything for everyone else. And it got to a point where it got so exhausting that I was thinking I would rather end things for myself than actually just make that simple choice of saying, I'm not doing it anymore. And sometimes that word, no, no, thank you, I'm going a different direction, it sounds really easy, but it's very hard, especially when you're attached to making sure someone else in the position that they are
Absolutely.
doing okay.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard transition. And I will say it, I'm only 30 years old, so I have a lot more to learn. But if you do not choose yourself, and you're choosing yourself every day, by the way, it's not just I chose my
Absolutely.
year ago, you're choosing yourself every day, which means you're getting up, you're working on yourself, you're working on your aspirations, on what your purpose is, you're choosing
Yeah.
yourself and aligning with what makes sense to you. If you don't do that, and if you keep kind of going down that same hill of not allowing that transition and that growth to happen for you, it can get really scary, because being a people pleaser sounds great, but at the end
Yeah.
of it, it really never is.
Well, and also too, speaking to what you just said too, like when you can honor yourself and choose yourself, you're building trust within yourself as well. And
Right.
every single time that you choose yourself, you're building a little bit more trust in yourself. And that's the most important thing, is for you to trust in who you can be and and what you can be. Because we
Mhm.
get to choose that. No one else does. So if
Right.
you're not, if you're like sitting on that edge going, do I do it? Don't I? Is this going to be, you know, should I do it? Should I take that step? Yes, take that step. Take
Right.
that step. Take a breath. Get quiet. Listen to what you really want, because you already know, and take that step. Because if
Yeah,
you're
and
willing to
and
hear it, you will hear it.
yes, actually, that's what I was about to say. And like we said before when we were talking, like your body will tell you what you want.
Yeah.
It will tell you, and you will know what's best for you. And I regret to say that, for many, many, many years of my life, and I know so many people listening right now can relate to it, but for so many years of my life, I decided to not choose myself and to choose others.
Hmm.
And at the end of it, it really left me with nothing, and even though you're trying to protect somebody else's energy and their peace and their emotions, once you forget about yourself, it's really, really hard to come back from it. Like I am honestly still in the process of healing
Yeah.
from it, because being a devoted people pleaser is really something very, very hard to break. And I still find myself doing it. I still
Oh,
want to take care of people, but
but it's the
you have to.
catching of it, right? It's that pattern that you're catching yourself in, Juliana. And the more you practice, the sooner you'll be able to catch yourself. And I want to really be completely honest with you when I say this. Transition isn't about becoming someone new.
Mhm.
It's just really about remembering who you've always been and who you get
Yeah,
to be every day for you,
I love that.
right?
I love that.
And those little times when you start saying yes to yourself, believe me when I say to you, your entire life starts to shift. And those people around you will start to shift too, just by
Right.
those little simple little things that you start to say yes to.
Exactly. Yeah, and you start to put your foot down, and you start to realize
Yeah,
your truth and what you stand in and what you
that's right.
don't.
That's right.
Exactly.
So, I really appreciate you being here with me once again. And I'm
Yeah, of
sure you'll be
course.
seeing more of Juliana in the future as well. But I just want to really, really, if I can say one thing to close this, remember who you are, and remember your choice of who you get to be. Thank
Amazing.
you for being here today. Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you. I loved it.
And yes, me too. And if this come up for you today, and if you listen to this and you feel like you need to share it with somebody, please do. Please do. The more people you share it with, the more we get out there. Thank you very much. And you guys have a beautiful day. See you next time.
Thank you.
Well, friends, that is the end of our episode today. If you love this episode, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And please share us with your friends and tag us on your socials at The Art of Being Unstoppable. So for today, have yourself a beautiful day and let's be unstoppable together. See you next time.